UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi just took place last night, and I'm going to break down the whole card. This card was stacked top to bottom. Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov in the main event. We had Figgy versus Cheeto on the card. We had a couple of good prelims and highly touted prospects like Shamil the Goat Gaziev and Azamat Mirzakhanov. Joel Alvarez was on the card. It was a really, really fun card. Overall, think that it could have delivered a little bit more with the names that were on the card, but I can't complain too much. It was a pretty good card, and on paper, this thing looked great, like Anthony Smith level on paper. But overall, I went 7-6 on predictions. Stupid ass me for saying, oh, why don't I take a bunch of fucking underdogs and think that I'm better than everyone else, and they all fucking lose. Stupid me, dumb idiot. But that brings my overall record to 201 and 121, so I'm at 62.5%. Again, not great, but I'm never going in the 50s, so that's the big part here. It's a hard fucking sport to predict, man. A lot of people did good on this card because a lot of people like to take favorites all the time and be boring. I'm not like that, so I won't pick winners for you. But we're gonna start off right away with the first fight on the card, which was Cedricus Dumas versus Dennis Tululin. Now, I picked Dennis Tululin to end up winning this fight with a late TKO. Just thinking that Cedric Dumas is still terrible. He wasn't going to be able to... I didn't think this fight was going to go to a decision. I thought that if Cedric Dumas can't find a way to finish Dennis Tululin, Dennis Tululin was eventually going to be able to stuff some takedowns and end up getting some good shots off, and Cedric Dumas was quit. That wasn't the case. Cedric Dumas kind of won this fight in the clinch in the first round. Then in the second round, he started landing some pretty decent shots on Dennis Tululin, but couldn't knock him out. Dennis Tululin won the third, I believe, if I'm getting the rounds right. I did think it was 29-28, Cedric Dumas. He won the fight. Cedric Dumas is really not good. Again, he's fighting a guy that's 10-9 or 11-9, and now 10-10 or 11-10. I don't know. ESPN and UFC have two different records for the guy. So I don't know what's good with the Dennis Tululin record, really. But overall, Dennis Tululin's got to get cut, man. He's just doesn't have the skill. I know he likes to bring it every time, but this was a pretty lackluster fight. Cedric Dumas did what he had to do to win, but again, it's not an impressive fashion, and he's fighting shit fighters. And when he's not, he's fighting the Nursultan Ruzaboyevs and getting destroyed. So, again, he got eye poked, but he's getting destroyed. Jai Herbert versus Rolando Bedoya. I picked Jai Herbert to win this fight, and he won this fight. He dropped Rolando Bedoya in the first round. Now, Bedoya was landing pretty decently, but he ended up getting dropped by a very clean 1-2 from Jai Herbert. And overall, when Jai Herbert needed to secure a round, he did it with a takedown to make sure he won it. The striking exchanges were getting close other than the knockdown. But Jai Herbert won this fight fair and square. He won it very well. I thought it was 30-27 Jai Herbert. Really good performance from him there. Again, that knockdown was good. And I can't believe Jai Herbert knocked down Rolando Bedoya. Rolando Bedoya didn't get knocked down by Chaos Williams when he was fighting at 170, but he gets knocked down by Jai Herbert. Crazy work. But I picked Jai Herbert to win this fight. He did win this fight. Good, pretty impressive performance from Jai Herbert. That's really all I got to say about it. Again, it's smart fight IQ in this fight, where sometimes we see him really have some of these dull fights. This one, he was landing good combinations, trading with Bedoya, and then to secure rounds, he'd get takedowns. Good work. Sam Hughes versus Victoria Dudakova. This is the parlay buster of all parlay busters. I had Victoria Dudakova in everything, thinking she was just going to be able to outland Sam Hughes. I thought she was a decent prospect, attractive woman, but I should have known, her being an attractive female prospect, Sam Hughes was going to beat her. It's what she does. Kudos to Sam Hughes on getting the win. I really didn't see her getting this one, but she put together a pretty good performance and got the W. So Sam Hughes gets the victory. Just landing better. They start to get in clinch control, and it just was not a fun fight. Sam Hughes wins the fight pretty clearly. Of course, it went to split. I was really praying for... Someone went 30-27 Dudakova, which is fucking crazy. Because she totally lost this fight. But I was praying for a robbery decision. 30-27 is insane work, though. Judges need to get figured the fuck out. Jordan Vucenic versus Garam Kutateladze. And in the first round of this fight, I was going, dude, I know my fucking shit. This was the pick. It was plus 200. No one was picking Vucenic because he was on short notice. And he was fighting a guy like Guram, who is an absolute monster. I was wrong. Jordan Vucenic in the first round looked fucking great, though. piecing up Goram Kudalaadze, gets a knockdown, looking good in the grappling, and just looked like he was levels above Kudalaadze for a round. Really looked good, putting together a masterpiece. And then the short notice caught up to him. It got to rounds 2 and 3, and Goram just really put a better pace on him, was outlanding him, and you could see Jordan Vucenic starting to fatigue. He wasn't fully prepared for the fight, but this was a good performance from Jordan Vucenic, taking it on short notice for him to say, all right, I have a place in the UFC, and it's against, top-level contenders or top-level prospects. So, good performance from Vucenic, but better from Goram Kudalaadze. Way to weather that early storm, and then end up landing good shots on the feet, really good punches. Started mixing in some knees to the body and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he was working the grappling as well, and he ended up having some good grappling in those later rounds against Jordan Vucenic, which is not something I fully expected. I thought if Goram was going to win, it was going to be him walking down Jordan Vucenic a lot and just ending up pouring it on, which he did a little bit, but he wasn't landing like crazy. It was more the grappling that he was doing a lot of his better work in those later rounds. So kudos to Goram Kudalaadze. Ends up getting the win over a very tough opponent. But chin up for Jordan Vucenic, because Jordan Vucenic is the real deal. He deserves to be in here with top-level prospects. And I reckon he's going to have a really good career here in the UFC if that's what he can put together on very short notice against Goram Kudalaadze. So I got this one wrong. I went 1 and 3 to start the card, so not great. But with the heavy favorites come the pickup here. So Shamil Gaziev versus Dontel Mays. Boring fight. Really boring fight. Shamil is just really a funny dude to watch, man. Goober-looking human. Still has no cardio, but he is better than Dontel Mays. We know he's better than Dontel Mays, and he proved it. He was landing in exchanges with Dontel Mays, and Shamil looked better in all aspects. But he was, again, fatiguing super early. He started fatiguing in the second round. They are pouring sweat. 2 just fat, out-of-shape heavyweights. But Shamil showed his grappling ability really well in this fight. I know when we saw him fight Boudet, it was a lot of work up against Wow. Holy Curtis Blades. I don't know what I just did there. Shamil Gaziev, earlier in his career, didn't work the grappling too well against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, as we saw. He got gassed out immediately because he does not belong in 5-round fights. Also, against Martin Boudet, he looked really dominant, but his grappling was more up against the cage in the clinch, where he was landing good knees and really landing good damage against Martin Boudet. Whereas here against Dontel Mays, he was able to get those takedowns, and he wasn't just holding Dontel Mays on the ground. Every once in a while, he would land in some shots. He would end up beating up on Dontel Mays, and I think he was talking to him on the ground too, where Dontel Mays was saying, they're booing you, and Shamil Gaziev was saying stuff and beating him up, and overall, good performance from Shamil Gaziev. Again, he's got to get this cardio thing out of control, but he does have some skill. He does look like another one of these just perennial top 15 heavyweights that are never going to pass the top, 8, because he's just fat and out of shape and is never going to fix his cardio. But he's stringing together these performances against these lower-level heavyweights, and he's beating them up. He beat up Dontel Mays. Good performance, good win. Get that cardio under control, though, brother, because, he is gasping for air. His mouth guard has fallen out in the middle of these fights, and he is just pleading and begging for air. So, really good performance from Gaziev. Not really good. It was a performance from Gaziev, but really showed off his grappling well. So good performance. I know I keep trolling, but good performance. Caio Fernandez, easiest fight in the card to pick. Muhammad Yahya is terrible. He stinks. Caio Fernandez actually has dangerous power. Landed really good low kicks that just took Muhammad Yahya off his feet immediately. Was literally just beating up his legs, went 10 for 10 in the low kicks, and after the first 3, Yahya could barely stand. He ended up landing a couple more, landing good shots up top, and finished the fight in the first round. Caio Fernandez, or Caio Fernandez, I think is actually how you pronounce it. Really good performance. I actually think this guy, while he fought a shit fighter in Muhammad Yahya, I think this dude is a very talented striker. He made Mark Jacasey wrestle, and Marchikazi's a good striker, so I think Kaiway Fernandez has a place here in the UFC, and not only a place in the UFC, but actually has some potential to continue to climb up those rankings and maybe make a name for himself as a legitimate prospect. So Kaiway Fernandez, really good performance. Again, not against the best competition, but when you're not facing the best competition, he did exactly what he needed to do, and he beat him up and got the finish in round 1. Easy victory for him. Talented guy. I'm very excited to see him continue to fight in the UFC. So great win from Kaiway Fernandez, first round knockout. Like I called, by the way. So I brought myself back to 3-3 on this card, and now 4-3 because Azamat Murzakanov, like I said, was going to get a late round 2 or round 3 KO against Alonzo Menefield by just eventually having these shots pile up, and Menefield really not being able to do much. Now, Menefield seriously struggled landing on Azamat Murzakanov. I was very impressed with the striking defense, but I was also very impressed with his ability to... they kind of went back and forth in the clinch a little bit in the first round, just like trading, not necessarily shots, but position, who had their back against the cage versus who didn't. But once that stopped and they realized they were kind of going to neutralize each other there, the hands were getting let go. Not many kicks landed by Azamat Murzakanov. I don't know if he threw many at all, but his boxing looked really good, very on point, and was seriously landing some good combinations on Alonzo Menefield, powerful and damaging. I will say, Azamat Murzakanov looks a little small for light heavyweight. He looks like he should be fighting at middleweight. If he cut serious weight, he could be fighting at welterweight, but I don't know that his body will let him do that. But I think he could fight at middleweight, honestly. And he has a lot of skill. He did start slowing down a little bit in the fight, but as he did, he landed his knockout shot. So again, even if he was slowing down, he got the win. If he gets that cardio a little bit more under control, I think he's going to be a serious problem in this division. Now, the one thing is he is 35 years old, so he's older. Don't know how much more time he has left in the octagon, but this is a really good performance. I was very, very impressed. This is one of the more impressive performances on the card. Got a really nasty finish against another top 15 guy in his division. It's a very good win. He stays undefeated. He's 14-0 now and is going to be looking up those rankings. I'd love to see him fight someone like Johnny Walker, someone like Khalil Roundtree. I think those are really good matchups. Azamat Murzakanov looked good, man. Really good. His combinations are slick. He landed power. Very impressed with his performance. And Alonzo Menefield, it's tough to see. The guy's 36. He got another L. He couldn't land much damage at all, and he got beat up by Azamat Murzakanov. So, looks like he's probably going to need to defend his ranking spot again. Tough to see for Alonzo, but again, this is kind of where his peak is at light heavyweight. I just don't see him doing much better than this. Great win from Murzakanov. Absolutely pieced him up. I think he got a performance bonus as well. And speaking of performance bonuses, so I go 4-3 on the card, but I got this one wrong. Honestly, this was such a, this is like a casual pick of me, taking Elvis Brenner. I thought that he was going to be able to weather a storm from Joel Alvarez and end up breaking Joel Alvarez late, because Joel Alvarez is breakable and he's super big for the weight class, which means he can fatigue a lot more. But at the end of the day, Joel Alvarez looked very, very good. Looked dangerous on the feet. Landed a 1-2 that hurt Elvis Brenner in the first round, and then just started piecing him up. Landing really good shots to the body. Landing with a ton of accuracy up top. Elvis Brenner has terrible striking defense. And does a lot of weird movements where he's like... But it's not smooth and stuff like that. It's just like weird, like Tony Ferguson-like movements, but it doesn't work for him because it's not like he's landing these insane shots that are putting out Joel Alvarez. He didn't in this fight. I know that he did against Garam Kutaladze and Kainan Kushevsky, so he didn't really do it against Madelbek Horribai either. So I think Brenner's just a pretty okay fighter, middle of the pack, middleweight or lightweight prospect. Joel Alvarez is top level lightweight prospect, someone that's just outside the top 15 right now, and I think should be looking at a top 15 fight soon, and I'll match that up in our matchmaking video that I will likely be posting tomorrow. But Joel Alvarez looked really good in this fight, and in the first round, he pieced up Elvis Brenner, and he almost got a Darce choke. Then in round 2, Brenner starts being able to do a little bit more, but Joel Alvarez does enough to win the round, still landing great shots to the body. That needs to be said. He was landing really good shots to the body, and then that was opening his strikes up top. And then in the third round, he beat up Elvis Brenner. Now, there were moments for Elvis Brenner, but Joel Alvarez stayed in there, was landing good shots of his own, and then he got to a point where he hurt Elvis Brenner and just started destroying knees to it. He threw about 7,000 knees to the face of Elvis Brenner. I counted them all. I think it was like 7,002, but he was just destroying Elvis Brenner's face with knees. Brenner ends up going down, which, first of all, kudos to Elvis Brenner because he is tough as fucking nails for the amount of knees that he took, but ends up getting TKO there in round 3 in the last minute and a half, and that was a very impressive performance from Joel Alvarez. He called out Bobby Green, but he wants a top 15 fight. I don't know if he knows that Bobby Green is no longer in the rankings after losing to Paddy Pimblett in such terrible fashion, and I don't know that Bobby Green's going to be turning around so quickly with a broken arm to be fighting in Abu Dhabi. I like that Alvarez wants to stay active and fight again quick. I like the Jalen Turner matchup. I think he does deserve a top 15 opponent, and I think Jalen Turner needs to defend his top 15 spot because he's losing, and he's losing a lot. He's got like a 13-8 record now or something like that. And I get it. He's losing to top-level guys. He's losing to Renato Moicano, the Beast. He's losing to like those kinds of guys. He's losing to Dan Hooker. He's losing to Mateusz Gamrot. Those are really, really good competition, but it's time to defend your ranking spot. You got 2 weight bullies in Joel Alvarez and Jalen Turner. I think that's the fight I'm going to make, but stay tuned to matchmaking to see everyone else. Really impressive performance from Joel Alvarez, though. So I was 4-4. Then I went to 4-5, even though I'm not going to call this a robbery because it's not. It was a close, competitive fight. I thought Lupi won rounds 2 and 3. I definitely thought Dern won round 1. I thought she landed the better shots, and I thought that she implemented her grappling enough. But rounds 2 and 3, I think differently. I think that the better shots were landed by Lupi Godinez, and Lupi Godinez started to get takedowns of her own and try and get submissions. Again, it was not like she had a ton of time on the ground, but when she was on the ground, she was pretty active, went for a submission, and then they would get back to the feet, and Lupi would land better shots. I think she was a better shot selector. I think she landed some really good left hook counters. Shots that sometimes are fight-ending, but Mackenzie Dern can, take a punch, and she's taken beatings in her career, and she's continued to move forward. So she goes in there and she likes to have a fight, and this was actually one of the more fun fights on the card, I believe. I enjoyed watching this fight, not just because of the cake on Mackenzie Dern, but her striking's looking like it's getting better. So wow, kudos to her for continuing to work on it. We've seen her continue to work on it, and she keeps trying to bring it out in these fights. And she's looking decent against it, fighting a really good boxer for her division in Lupi Godinez. Lupi Godinez is one of the better boxers at strawweight. Mackenzie was able to mix it up. But if I'm being honest, I thought Lupi won this fight. It's not a robbery. It was a very close fight. It really could have gone either way. I am shocked it was unanimous. I do think it was close enough. But Mackenzie Dern is very promotable. She's very sexy, especially from, the shoulders down. But yeah, I mean, good performance from Mackenzie Dern. Good performance from Lupi Godinez. Good fight. Again, I thought it went to the wrong person. Again, not a robbery. I'm not overly upset about it. I would have liked to have better predictions, but at the end of the day, it doesn't always go like that. This would have made me 8-5, which would have felt a lot better than 7-6. But again, good fight, good scrap. Close places in the rankings. I think that they're both deserving of ranking spots, and of course, they're both going to have fun fights throughout their career. So kudos to Mackenzie Dern. She got this one done. I do think Lupi won it, but at the end of the day, it was close enough. Looking up and up for both these ladies, though. Good scrap. So I thought Tony was, for a few seconds, doing pretty decent on the feet and landing. Now, Michael Chiesa did have a couple shots to the headland, but that was it. It was a couple shots, and those shots was like a good 1-2. And I think everyone went crazy about the 1-2 because it's like Michael Chiesa never lands a 1-2. And he did. He landed a pretty good one. And then he had a good left hook counter. Or right hook counter. Those are the only strikes I saw him land. And from the striking totals, that's pretty much what happened. Tony was landing better shots, landed really good low kicks to start that I think were bothering Chiesa just a touch. If he could have kept tallying those up, I think Chiesa would have been in serious trouble because I don't think he can switch stance. Tony was getting shots landed in, but they weren't too crazy. But before you know it, takedown comes. Tony gets taken down. He gives up his back, and he gets choked out. It's what Tony does. It's a bad look for him. It was just a bad look, man. I don't want to keep seeing Tony lose. Don't want to see him keep losing. I hope he doesn't retire because I think he deserves a Robbie Lawler-esque montage. If fucking Michelle Waterson gets one, then Tony Ferguson deserves an hour-long montage on the octagon for being one of the best fighters that the sport has seen. The guy's on an 8-fight losing streak right now. At one point in Tony Ferguson's career, he was 26-3. He is now 26-11. That's sad to see, man. And he went up in weight, fighting a strong wrestler, knowing that Tony's not going to be able to get him off him. A lot of people were saying maybe Tony was going to get a Darce choke, and I was praying for that, but we knew. We knew this was going to happen. Michael Chiesa out-grappled him, and he did what he did. Kudos to Michael Chiesa for giving Tony Ferguson a mic moment. And Tony Ferguson kind of, but not really, retires. Puts down one glove in the octagon. Like the most Tony Ferguson thing ever. And then after that, he says, I don't know if I'm done. I'd like to keep fighting. I don't want to fight for anyone other than the UFC, but I got to talk to my wife and my family. I think he looks at the UFC and he says, Dana, I get it. You don't want me to fight anymore. My family doesn't really want me to fight anymore. I want one more, and I want one that I'm going to win, and I want my montage send-off. Because, let me tell you something. Watching Robbie Lawler get that ovation in the octagon after his crazy knockout against Nico Price, that was insane. I believe that Tony deserves something just like that. It made Robbie Lawler get emotional. It made the fans get emotional. I think Tony Ferguson can invoke the same kind of emotion. If you do that on the featured prelim of the McGregor card in December, Tony Ferguson versus a winnable fight like Clay Guida, like Trevor Peake, like Muhammad Yahya, someone like that Tony can beat, that's what you do. You give him a good send-off. He gets to retire in peace, gets his good ovation, and that walks us right into a McGregor main card that, while it doesn't have a title fight, has a big night fight feel because McGregor's on the card, but you just got to see Tony retire, and you have some emotion in your body now. So, again, good performance from Michael Chiesa. Really, really classy move to see that Tony was possibly going to retire and say, hey, this isn't my time. I'm going to give all the mic time to Tony Ferguson here. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to my mom in the crowd. Give it to Tony Ferguson. He deserves the fight, or deserves the ability to talk on the mic. Kind of got baited into giving up the mic for a retirement that I don't think is actually going to happen. But, again, we'll see. Tony, man. It's fucking sad to see, dude. It's fucking really sad to see. But I think one more and get him a win. It's crazy, by the way. The Abu Dhabi crowd loves Tony Ferguson. Everyone does. This fight went exactly how I thought. 29-28, Davison Figueiredo. I thought it was going to be round 3 that Cheeto started to pick it up a little bit, but it wasn't. It was round 2 that he looked good and dangerous. Round 1, Figgy lands good shots, really good low kicks, gets his takedowns, and pretty much controls the whole first round. Easy win for Figgy. Looked good. Round 2, Cheeto starts to pick it up. Oh, also in the first round, Figgy threw an axe kick as the horn was sounding, and again, it was a little late when he landed, but I think his foot was in the air when the bell rung. He just kept going through with it. Cheeto didn't like that. He landed it. And then Cheeto, in the second round, outlanded Davison Figueiredo. Looks like that pissed him off, and he walked forward, and he started landing really, really well. And I was nervous that Figgy was going to let this one slip away because he had such a good first round, and he started panic shooting takedowns, and he wasn't getting them. He shot a lot of takedowns and didn't get them, but I think what he was doing is he knew he wasn't getting them, but he knew Cheeto wasn't going to be quick enough to throw something up the middle to catch him, so he was kind of feinting it a lot, and feinting it and grabbing a leg and then pulling back and trying to land the counter to get Marlon Vera to react so he can land those shots up top earlier. And it looks like round 2, he wanted Cheeto to gain some momentum so he could pull away in round 3. And at the end of round 2, bell rings, Cheeto lands a hook to the face in very similar fashion that Figgy landed his axe kick. So they're 1-1 in rounds. They're also 1-1 in after the horn shots. I'm okay with the way the fight's going so far. It's fun. Nothing too crazy, but it's fun. And round 3 was an awesome round. This might have been one of the better rounds of the entire card, round 3 here, because they're both landing good. Cheeto lands and hurts Davison Figueiredo, and then Figgy lands really good shots and drops Cheeto Vera. Cheeto Vera has never been dropped in his entire career, and Davison Figueiredo, coming up from flyweight to be a bantamweight, now has 2 wins at bantamweight, ends up getting a 3rd win at bantamweight after this fight, knocks down Cheeto Vera, the first person to ever do it. O'Malley didn't do it. O'Malley beat the fuck out of Vera, but he didn't end up knocking him down. Figgy did. Guys, Davison Figueiredo is the bantamweight title away from creeping into GOAT conversations of like top 10 of all time. That's not a crazy thing to say. Davison Figueiredo is a win against an Aldo, a Sandhagen, or something like that away, and then the title from a top 10 fighter of all time. Solidified. He has a couple losses in his career, yeah. But he got bored fighting Brandon Moreno. I'm completely convinced of that. He fought him 4 fucking times in a row. He's like, dude, I don't really want to fight this guy anymore, so he kind of just mails it in. He comes at the bantamweight. He gets a new challenge. He's all excited again. He has looked so good. Incredibly technical, and he looked way smaller than Chito Vera in there, and he kind of bullied Chito. Good performance, great performance, and he does everything right. When he needs to strike, if the shots are open, he strikes and he lands the shots that are there. He lands the low kicks when they're open. He lands the boxing combinations when they're open, and he has power that is transcending weight classes against people that have insanely good chins. He outclassed Rob Font. Garbrandt stand in there and struck with him pretty well, but when he said, fuck it, I'm not going to stand and strike with the guy that I know that isn't going to be able to counter-grapple me, he took down Garbrandt and he choked him out in the second round. And then a dude that has the best chin in the UFC outside of like Marvin Vettori and Kevin Holland, Figgy knocked him down and pieced him up on the feet. Really good performance from Deiveson Figueiredo. This guy is very damn close to a title fight, and he's close to getting it, man. I'm a big proponent of Deiveson Figueiredo being a top 10 fighter of all time very soon. This guy's 24-3, and 2 of his losses are to Brandon Moreno. He had a draw to Brandon Moreno, but if he didn't get a point taken, he wins that fight. No, I get it. He deserved to get a point taken. That's on him. But then he gets his eye hit, and it shuts off, and he doesn't want to keep fighting in the third round of their final fight. So that's a loss right there. And then he looked just really lollygagged in their second fight where Moreno choked him out to win the title. But other than that, he has one other loss. I mean, the dude's the real deal. Deiveson Figueiredo is a fucking monster. And I can't wait to see what he keeps doing in his career. This guy's a fucking beast. We might be looking at a guy that can beat O'Malley. Now, I think O'Malley is the best fighter at bantamweight. I think O'Malley's going to knock out Merab early. And I think that when we get to the Umar fight, I'll explain a little bit more. But I think he has the counter-grappling that Cory Sandhagen has, where he can stuff takedowns from Umar. And I don't think he'll lollygag like Cory Sandhagen did. I think he has legitimate punching power and he can knock Umar out too. Or win a damage-based decision. But great performance from Deiveson Figueiredo. Holy smokes, this guy's the real deal. We knew he was the real deal, but holy smokes, he's going up to bantamweight and his power's transcending. Next up on the card was Shara Magomedov versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Michal Oleksiejczuk landed some really, really good shots in this fight. But Shara Magomedov landed better. His kicks were really good. He had some decent cardio, man. I was very surprised. He started landing some good punches. He just outclassed Michal Oleksiejczuk pretty easy. Thought Shara got kind of knocked down. They didn't count it a knockdown, but it was like an off balance, and he got hit because he's throwing a kick at the same time, and that's just what happens. Shara's always throwing kicks. Michal's got power, and I would say that, the knockdown is like enough to win Michal a round, except for the fact that every other moment in that round was Shara just destroying Michal Oleksiejczuk with kicks to the body, kicks to the legs, kicks up top, good boxing combinations. Shara looked great in this fight. And Michal is tough as nails. This could have also been fight of the night. I think it won fight of the night, actually, and I kind of agree with it. I think it was a sick fight. Shara looked great, landing tremendous kicks, and he can throw a ton of kicks and knock gas out. This dude's the real deal. Michal Oleksiejczuk gets a takedown in round 3 and starts doing some little bit of damage, but I think Shara was doing more damage, landing elbows from the bottom and splitting Michal open. Michal's got a hell of a chin, though. He's a tough, durable guy. I want to see him keep fighting in the UFC because he goes in there. Dana, pay this guy because he'll go in there and he will give anyone a fight and he will make sure that every fight he's in is not boring. It's either ending in a finish or it's a fun decision. So Michal Oleksiejczuk, again, did what he could against Shara, but Shara looked that fucking good, man. He's good, bro. He's really good on the feet. The grappling really scares me. But when you put him up against strikers, he's going to make everyone a wrestler. This dude is legit on the feet. Cory Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, Umar won this fight. On my scorecard, it was 48-47. I thought Sandhagen won rounds 1 and 2, and then Umar won 3 and 4 very easily, and 5 as well. 49-46, I can understand. 50-45, I think, is an absolutely terrible scorecard. Sandhagen, right off the bat, is looking good. Round 1, he looks good. He's landing really good low kicks that are hurting Umar and hurting him bad. And Umar's going down to reach him. And you're thinking, dude, he's going down to reach for all these low kicks. Cory's got the high kick set up, or he can spin kick and get him. Like, he can genuinely land some damage. But Cory just didn't do that as the fight progressed. he looked really, really good in the technical wrestling defense. Every time Umar would shoot, Cory would go to fight the hands, and Umar was not having any success. He didn't land any damage. He didn't threaten with any submissions. He kind of just held Cory there, but not in dominant position. He would like get the back of Cory. Cory would Granby roll and be sitting on top of him and just being able to fight the hands, and nothing would happen. It was really good high-level scramblings. This was a high-level technical fight, but that's what Cory Sandhagen screwed up, is he made it too technical. He almost, I feel like he wanted to look too pretty, and that's what lost him this fight. He went in there trying to dance around, trying to, win the outside foot battle, try and land good counters, try and just land jabs, land one left hook, but he was throwing everything away. He would go out there and he wouldn't mix up the strikes well. He spammed the left hook a bunch of times once he landed once, and he had a couple of really good low kicks, but he ended up going away from the low kicks late. I thought Cory blew this fight. I thought he had a really good chance to win this, and let's not take anything away from Umar, because Umar's very, very legitimate, very, very real deal, very talented fighter, can go to the wrestling when he needs to secure rounds, and can hang in there and strike with the best, like Cory Sandhagen, but Umar wasn't doing anything flashy to win. He was out landing Cory Sandhagen with very basic technique, landing his 1-2s, step-in shots, good kicks. It wasn't anything crazy. And it seemed like he figured Cory Sandhagen out. Cory is a technical maestro. Every time he steps in the octagon, this guy has crazy technique. You're going to see some awesome stuff. But he didn't throw anything fun. I thought he could have thrown some spinning attacks, throw some flying knees, throw some different kind of strikes, really do a good job mixing things up. And again, his boxing's not that great, but he can string together combinations and then work kicks in with it. And he just wasn't really doing that as the fight progressed. Don't know what happened. Cory kind of let me down, man. I'm a big Cory fan. I'll always be a big Cory fan. And I know it sucks, and I don't want to pile on because it's a big, big loss for him. Might put him out of title contention for a while. Badass for taking the fight that no one else wanted to take. But, dude, this is the fight that you've been preparing for a long time. You had this fight booked again before. I think he left a lot to be desired in this performance. I think Cory's so much better than he showed. And I'm not taking anything away from Umar. I think part of this is Umar being able to figure him out. But I also think Cory left it on the left so much how do I say it? He left a lot to be desired, but the win was there for him. He could have gotten it, but he didn't. Now, it was one of the best takedown defense displays that I have seen, especially coming against a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov, who we know can wrestle like crazy. But when it came to the striking, Umar was just better than him. I was a little disappointed from Cory, not going to lie. Didn't string together the combinations that I wanted to see. Didn't throw any kind of spinning shit or any crazy kind of technique that I thought could have edged some rounds for him or at least done damage. It just didn't look like he was trying to land damage other than the low kick in the first round or two. I think he had I don't know. He kind of shit the bed, man. And Umar looked fucking great, dude. This guy is the real deal. He can win fights, and he will win every fight. Now, this fight was very close. The scorecards may not show it, but the fight was very close. A lot to be desired from Sandhagen. Good performance from Umar. This guy puts himself in title conversation. I would maybe like to see him fight one more contender, but if Sean beats Merab, I'm okay with Umar going in there. I'm also okay with Umar versus Figueiredo for a number one contenders fight. You'll see in the matchmaking what I end up doing, but Umar Nurmagomedov is the real deal, man. This is the performance that I was looking for to say that he proved to me that he is one of the best. He can hang with the best. Leading up to this fight, he hadn't fought a ranked contender, and I wasn't overly impressed with any of his performances. Smudge grappling people. Taking Nate Maness to a decision, taking Bexad Almakhan to a decision, knocked out Ronnie Barcelos, but Ronnie Barcelos sucks. Thought it was a really good performance from Umar. I thought Cory Sandhagen just really lost this fight for himself. Would have liked to see more, but, let's hope Cory bounces back, gets in there, sees what he did wrong, and starts to go in there more. I mean, this guy's a technical maestro, and he may be one of the best fighters in the world to never win an undisputed title or an interim title. It's tough to see, man. Really good performance from Umar Nurmagomedov. Sandhagen left a lot to be desired. That one stunk. That one stunk for me to watch as a fan, but good win from Umar. Cory, man, I don't know. I thought I expected a little bit more. If I'm being real, I expected more. Thank you for watching. This is the breakdown of UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. Good card. Sandhagen will be back. Umar's the real deal. Davison Figueiredo is a title challenger soon. So, good card overall.